was raised on beans and cornbread, and I like my chicken fried. Yes, I drive a pickup truck, and I'm full of American pride. I got a Bible on my table, I got a flag out on my lawn, and I don't believe in minding no one's business but my own. Now I love them Rambo movies, I think they make a lot of sense. It's a shame old John Wayne didn't live to run for president. And I'm a catfish connoisseur. I love the Leonard Skinner band. And I'm crazy about the NFL. And I'm a diehard NASCAR fan. What this world needs is a few more rednecks. People with the nerve to take a stand. What this world needs is a little more respect for the Lord and the law and the working man. We could use a little peace and satisfaction. Good people up front to take the lead. A little less talk and a little more action. And a few more rednecks is what we need. That's what we need, y'all. And a few more rednecks is what we need. Yeah, it is.
To understand your right to bear arms, you must first understand the concept of common law. Merriam-Webster defines common law as the body of law developed in England primarily from judicial decisions based on custom and precedent, unwritten in statute or code, and constituting the basis of the English legal system and the system of all the U.S. except Louisiana, which happens to be based on the French system. Furthermore, to understand law, you have to realize that law and legal systems have a pedigree, and that the original intent of the lawmakers when those laws were written means everything in this tradition. As an example of some of the pedigree that the American colonies inherited from Great Britain, we will first look at a few statutes from the 12th century and 13th century. The first is the Assize of Arms of 1181, an order issued during Henry II's reign. It states, "Every free layman who possesses chattels or rents," that's essentially property, "to the value of 16 marks, shall have a shirt of mail, a helmet, a shield, and a lance. And every free layman possessing chattels or rents to the value of 10 mark shall have a hauberk, an iron cap, and a lance." A hauberk is essentially another form of armor for the body, typically having a neck guard. Furthermore, it states, "All burgesses and the whole community of freemen shall have a gambeson, an iron cap, and a lance." The gambeson being a padded body armor. First, it mentions that all of these people shall have these items. In these times, the word shall was much more definitive. It did not mean maybe like it does today. Second, note that this includes the entire population of Britain, from the knights and the big landowners, all the way down to just the whole community of free people. So by the king's orders, these people were required to be armed and have armor, and that requirement varied depending on your ability to have those arms. Later on, the English would develop the English longbow, which gained its fame during the 100 Years' War. But even prior to the prominence of the English longbow, the English began adopting the bow and arrow as part of their arms requirements. We see this in the Statute of Arms of 1242, issued during Henry III's reign. It set the requirements for arms needed for all men all free men between the ages of 15 and 60. And again, we see those more capable financially of possessing those arms had more arms requirements. From the knight, who was supposed to have a hauberk, an iron hat, a sword, a knife, and a horse, all the way down simply to free men living in the woods who were required to have bows and arrows. In later centuries would come the firearm, which evolved over time, originating in China around 1250 AD, with examples being that of the simple hand cannon, and moving westward it was adopted by the Arabs, the Turks, and the Europeans in the 14th century, who developed the first muskets. And between the 15th and 21st centuries, you see the Europeans and later Americans develop firearms into the weapons we have today. Most people are aware of this knack that Europeans and Americans have for adopting the inventions and ideas of others and advancing the technology exponentially in a short amount of time. So when the founders formed the United States of America, they brought this tradition of common law and this history of the right to bear arms for all free men with them. Not only this, but they founded a nation with various Protestant Christian sects. And while the topic of religion is not the focus of this video, it is the competition between these Protestant sects that gave rise to the First Amendment, keeping the government out of your churches. But the founders brought with them also this concept of natural rights. The first thing you need to know about natural rights is that they are inalienable. And what that means is they cannot be taken from you by anyone. Not government and no other person can take them from you. And you receive these rights at birth. You possess these rights by your very existence. So they brought the British common law over, and they added these modifications that were based on natural rights. Pertaining to the right to bear arms is this notion of the first law of nature, that being the right of self-preservation, the right to defend yourself. And this is a right that is self-evident. It's evident in nature. All healthy animals have a basic instinct to protect themselves. And you have a basic instinct to protect yourself from all foreseeable threats. And anyone who is well read in history can see that a foreseeable threat may be that of an armed agent working on the behest of a tyrannical government that wishes to come to you and take your rights away from you. And you do not have to take my word alone for this. Here I will use 3 examples of founding fathers or members of the founding generation. The first being Thomas Jefferson, the second being George Mason, and the third being Noah Webster. But know that there are countless others that you yourself can research and find out that this is the case for all of them. Thomas Jefferson, who addressed this issue many more times than I'm showing here, has said, "No free man shall ever be debarred the use of arms." He also said, "I prefer dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery." And in a letter to Madison in 1787, Jefferson said, "What country can preserve its liberties if their rulers are not warned from time to time that their people preserve the spirit of resistance? Let them take arms." Jefferson also said, "A strong body makes the mind strong." As to the species of exercises, I advise the gun. While this gives moderate exercise to the body, it gives boldness, enterprise, and independence to the mind. Games played with the ball, and others of that nature, are too violent for the body, and stamp no character on the mind. Let your gun, therefore, be your constant companion on your walks. Has application to open carry today, doesn't it? He also said, "The Constitution of most of our states, and of the United States, assert that all power is inherent in the people, that they may exercise it by themselves, that it is their right and duty to be at all times armed." George Mason, the father of the Bill of Rights, said, "To disarm the people is the most effectual way to enslave them." In an address to the Virginia Ratifying Convention for the Constitution, Mason said, "I ask, who are the militia? They consist now of the whole people, except a few public officers." The father of American education, Noah Webster, said, "Before a standing army can rule, the people must be disarmed, as they are in almost every country in Europe. The supreme power in America cannot enforce unjust laws by the sword, because the whole body of the people are armed, and constitute a force superior to any band of regular troops." So to summarize, your right to keep and bear arms is a natural right. Even if the Second Amendment did not exist, you would still have this right. And even if the government made laws against your right to bear arms, the right would still exist, and you would have the right to resist. Martin Luther King Jr. famously said, "A man who does not have something for which he is willing to die is not fit to live." Your rights as an American citizen can be summed up very easily. You possess no right for which you are not willing to sacrifice your comfort, your fortune, and your life. You have an unalienable right to protect yourself and your life. And not only your life, but the lives of the innocent. This includes children who are vulnerable to sex traffickers and pedophiles. Recently, these sick practices have creeped their way into my state, Alabama, a conservative haven. A 3-year-old black girl went missing. A few days later, they found her body in a dumpster. These crimes are unforgivable, and the perpetrators, there is no punishment bad enough for them. These crimes cross racial lines, they cross ethnic lines, religious lines, and they can be found everywhere. Sometimes it can be unbelievable, the people you find that are involved in these practices. Here's a story of a man recently arrested, Jim Farmer, former Alabama and NBA basketball player. It seems no amount of money or fame can stop these people from their evil lust. As I said, it's my opinion that there is no punishment great enough for these people. And we all know what happens to them when they get locked away. All I'll say to that is God bless. And you can say similar things to those who sexualize young children in many different ways. It is just a an utterly degenerate practice. And it's not only individuals involved in these things. There's a long history of government involvement in sex trafficking. Not only of adults, but of children primarily. You see a lot of these things among the quote-unquote secret oathers, people loyal to cabals, where these practices are used as blackmail to make sure that members of the cabal stay in line with their goals. In the United States, those goals include bringing about an authoritarian socialist global government. If you don't believe me, Google such things as the CIA finders, Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, Robert Maxwell, Prince Andrew, the Mega Group, the Catholic Church. These cabals exist, and these blackmailing practices are used to keep the members in line with their goals. So you cannot trust anyone with your children. And your ability to defend your children against all threats is vital. Your right to bear arms is vital. And that right, that ability, that is white power. And you do not have to be white to possess it. Please, please, please subscribe to Ryan Dawson, Chris Anhall JD, Jamie Deluxe, and Blackstone Intelligence on YouTube. Also do your own research and find other people to look into and check on their work. Make sure it's right. And never forget the USS Liberty. Never forget 9/11. Never forget the dancing Israelis. Get the truth out there. Spanky out.
They have laid down their lives on the bloody battlefield. Shout, shout the battle cry of freedom. Their motto is resistance to tyrants will not yield. Shout, shout the battle cry of freedom. Oh, Dixie forever, she's never at a loss. Down with the eagle and up with the cross. And we'll rally round the bonny flag, we'll rally once again. Shout, shout the battle cry of freedom.